Have you ever had negative thoughts in your mind that you aren't good enough, that you'll never be successful? If so, you're not alone. I've had those thoughts playing in my mind ever since I took the leap to become an entrepreneur. It's a dirty, dark secret that no one likes to talk about, as the glamorization of becoming an entrepreneur is shown in the media. I realized that in order to succeed, I needed help. We all do. So I decided to go all in on myself, spending thousands of hours in the trenches, reading, joining groups, listening to podcasts, hiring coaches to develop a bulletproof morning routine for success. Join me on my journey as together we build our morning fire to ignite our lives as entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Wickersham, and this is the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. Welcome to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. So my special guest today is Dr. Kimberly Hambrick, who is a leadership development, growth coach, and trainer. Dr. Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Boy, I tell you, after watching that intro, I'm pumped up.
There you go. That's a good thing. We're going to get even more pumped up. So let's do a couple power breaths. We're going to do three power breaths in, through the belly, up through the chest, up through the head. Let's go ahead. Breathe in and out. Good. Another breath in and out. Final breath in and out. Awesome. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. We're going to yell boom at the top of our lungs. All right. In 3, 2, 1, boom. Boom. There you go. Awesome. Thank you for playing along. So let's get right into it. Morning habits, rituals, routines. I eat, sleep, and breathe them on a daily basis. What do you do first thing in the morning that kind of sets you down that path toward success?
Oh, thank you for asking. And I so agree with you. I am a person of faith. So my morning routines start with, first and foremost, doing a gratitude journal. Just thankful for another day and what I was thankful for in the day before. And then I have a daily journal that has a Bible verse and an application. So I read that and then I go back and read the Bible, larger verse connected with that. And it really just centers me. It makes me realize what's most important, why I'm here. And it just sets me off on a good path. That's
awesome. I love getting into a state of gratitude, being just grateful for another day. And prior to the podcast, I shared with you the loss of my mother 6 years ago. And that definitely was that trigger that every day is a gift. And if you can get into that state of understanding that and an awareness of that, boy, your days are that much happier, that much more fulfilled, because you get to breathe and you get to impact the world. So love that piece. So trainer, growth coach, I know you want to talk about busting your belief systems, the BS, and we all have those belief systems that we carry from childhood. Explain that a little bit, and let's unpack that.
Oh, absolutely. So, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know that I suffered from limiting self-beliefs. If you would look at my corporate career, almost 30 years, I was very successful. I was always advancing to the next stage. I was always growing other people, but I was always butting up against my belief system, and my belief system, which was imprinted early on in my life. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And it manifested, as a middle child, and I don't get caught up in birth order that much, but I have an older sister and we were dressed exactly alike, 3 years apart. I was her mini version of her. And when you start to see picture after picture, and it's like, I don't even matter enough to have my own clothes. And I just kind of lived with that. And how it grew with me is self-deprecating humor. So I was always putting myself down. And at some point, we realize that we can't outperform our belief system. And when we were talking before, and you were talking about the death of your mother, and I said that, I refer to that as those gut kicks in our life, a life-defining moment. Well, I had a couple in a row. I had a very difficult situation with our youngest child that then kind of rolled over into a professional one where I got blindsided by a colleague of 10 plus years. And in that moment, when I found out that this person that I had trusted had been recording me for 10 plus years without my knowledge and building a case file for whenever I might have done something that, he pulled the trigger to submit it, I heard myself for the first time saying, no, I'm worth it. I deserve better. And that was the first step forward in recognizing its awareness and recognizing that it was my own inner thoughts that were holding me back. And I worked intentionally and consistently with mentors to uncover what that was. And one of my hashtags when I post is simple yet profound. And one of the exercises that a coach had me do that I am telling you made all the difference in the world was to keep track daily of what follows my I am statements. And, you know, Jeff, so effortlessly, I said negative things about me that I would never say to a person that I didn't care for, but yet I said it to myself. And then I was challenged with writing positive statements. And I probably could have wrote the next 500-page novel before I could write something positive about myself. But in the course of doing this, I was in a study group of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know, this was a book that was written in the 1930s. And there's a line in there, and I always say I'm paraphrasing because 9 out of 10 times I mangle it. The line is, fear and faith make bad bedfellows. And what that said to me was, if I had negative thoughts up in here, there was no room for positive thoughts. And so I had to keep chinking away or busting through it with positive thoughts. And something amazing happened. I started to believe what I was saying about myself. And that's where I work with people, because I think very successful people don't realize that they're still suffering from something that's holding them back. And so that's what busting through your belief system is. It's that negative swirl of self-talk that we don't know that we're doing. And I call it BS because it's belief system or something else, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's crazy how you have the same two that I discovered in my journey of I'm not worthy and I'm not enough. And it again goes back to my childhood. I'm the oldest of three. I've got a younger brother, 3 years younger, and a younger sister, 6 years younger. And I never really knew it until I started living with now my wife. And I would always tell her when I would do something, right? I'd do the dishes and I'd let her know. And I was driving with my brother a weekend and we started talking about it. He says, I do the same thing to my wife. And here it was. My mom always wanted a baby girl. And when my sister came along, my brother and I had to show what we did for attention. And that impacted my self-worth. And was I enough? As a child, I just adopted that I wasn't. And here I would always bring it up. And it was one of those light bulb moments where we both said, how the heck do we both do that? Oh, wait, let's unpack that. Let's get into it a little bit. And we discovered it. Yeah.
You know, what's so interesting is there are 3 in my family. We're all 3 years apart, 2 girls and a son. And my parents didn't know they were treating us any differently. My sister was the firstborn, and you know, your firstborn child, you celebrate. And then you have a baby boy, an Italian family. I mean, let's be real. He was getting toys for Christmas. We're getting packs of underwear. I mean, something was a little off.
Yeah. And you know, as parents, we try and do our best job that we possibly can. And unfortunately, that's just human nature, that you adopt some beliefs that aren't even real, but you interpret that way because you don't know any better as a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid. And then they're just playing in the back of your mind throughout your adult life. And so many people don't have that awareness of, wow, there are things going on. And I love your practice of writing down those I am statements. I mean, I love I am statements. I love the 4 Agreements book by Don Miguel Ruiz, where you're impeccable with your word, and how you speak and talk about yourself internally has such a big impact on your belief system and what you can achieve.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So would that be a great strategy for people to go through if they feel themselves having some negative beliefs that play in their mind? What would be a great strategy? Is it writing it down?
Yeah, that's really one that I recommend because it's so easy to do. Ask yourself as you're thinking through some things, if you're moving up the corporate ladder, if that's what you want to do, but you're not celebrating that next promotion or the next achievement. If there's something that's kind of holding you back, if you feel like you know there's something more and you're not quite there, but you can't look at your accomplishments and celebrate them, then take a step back and ask yourself how you're talking to yourself. And asking, tracking your I am statements. And then the other thing that I did, I would ask people how they viewed me, so I could get their views of me. And because, I'm me, I'd also ask a few people that I knew did not like me, their thoughts about me, because in all honesty, Jeff, there's some truth in that. It helps you uncover your blind spots, and you have to be ready for it. Because if you ask somebody that doesn't like you, they're going to tell you. But in there, you can, cross out some words and you can see. And I think consistently people were seeing me completely different than I saw myself. So if these were people that I respected for the most part, how could they see someone so differently than I saw myself? And I wanted to come into alignment with how they were viewing me versus how I viewed myself.
I love that practice of asking people that like and trust, as well as a couple that might not think that highly of you. And isn't it incredible that they gave you a total different picture than how you saw yourself? And it's mind-blowing.
It is, and it's mind-blowing. And then when I look back at it, I'm like, how did I not see that? But I wasn't at that point in my life where I could see it. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I've gotten into the practice of reading some of the books I like a second time. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how much value you can pick up from things because you're in a different place in your life. Reading a book the second time, and you're like, I missed that last time. Well, your mind wasn't open to seeing the knowledge and taking it in and understanding the impact that it can have on you.
Mm-hmm. And I know you know this. I mean, we're constantly growing. So when we get to a new state of awareness, we're going to be different. And we're going to look at things differently. And odd that you just said that, because over the weekend, I just started reading Atomic Habits again.
There you go. Love it. Love James Clear's book. That's one of the best ones. So life reset. Let's talk a little bit about life reset. What do you mean by life reset?
Yeah. So I told you that I had not that great of an exit from corporate. It was on my own terms, but I found myself leaving a career, leaving a paycheck, leaving benefits, and waking up the next day. And it's like, what the heck am I going to do? And I had toyed with the idea of doing my own consulting, but it was like a 5-year plan. And I told myself no. So when I talk about a life reset, what I say to people, at any point in your life, you could hit that reset button and do what you want to do. I was in my early 50s when I stopped what I was doing and I created a new path forward for myself. And there's something freeing about that when people truly think about it, when you realize that what's calling on your heart. I work with a lot of people who are in corporate and they may not be happy in their current position. Well, they don't have to leave corporate and become an entrepreneur if they're looking for a different job. But for some of us, we want to move out into the entrepreneurial world. And it's, as you know, it's not for the faint of heart. And it's not as glamorous at times that we all think. But to truly know that, one, I was in control of what I wanted to do and that I could do what I knew I was made to do, because as a person of faith, I believe we're all fully resourced. And there's a plan for us, but I couldn't see my full potential until I had nothing else to see, to be perfectly honest. And I don't want people to get to that point. I want to help people uncover their full potential before they have that gut kick and they're looking up.
Yeah, and I fully believe everybody has that true hero inside, right? And it's just been layered upon layered belief system, but belief system on top, and it needs to be unearthed. It needs to be, broken free from the shackles of those belief systems and maybe other expectations that others might have put on you that you thought, would serve you well. So it's such an important piece to the equation. And I know you mentioned this before, growth, right? We're constantly growing. So explain to me kind of what you want to touch on related to growth and that topic.
Yeah. So one of my mentors that was very instrumental to me when I first came from corporate and I'm out here now, struggling. He recognized that I was broken. He recognized that I couldn't even form a sentence, to be perfectly honest, without crying. And he said one of the most powerful things to me. He said, borrow the belief I have in you until yours matches mine.
I love it.
No one ever spoke to me like that. And I held on to it. And through working with him, I started to see and learn from him that he had a growth system that he engaged in every year. And what he would do at the end of the year, he did that self-reflection. He did his planning for the next year. I never did that. I never had a plan. I was sort of like, by the grace of God, things worked out. And if they didn't, I found another way around it. And so the growth system is being intentional about the areas you want to grow in. It could be personal, it could be spiritual, it could be your financial, whatever it is. And it's just making the space to think about what you bring to the table, your strengths, what you want to do. One of my favorite questions, what makes your heart sing? And then how can you do that? And a lot of people will set targets or goals. But one of the things that I work with clients and I do myself is I have to see the person that I need to become to reach that target. And that helps me anchor it a little bit, because if I know who I need to become, that gets back to growth, then I can make the steps to grow myself to get there.
No, I love that. And I think it's so vitally important to have that intention and have those goals. And personally, I will admit, in years prior in corporate world, and even as an early entrepreneur, my first couple of years, I didn't have those. And what happened? I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. And it's not hard to connect the dots, but this year, especially, having a personal goal, fitness goal, having a business goal, having an uncomfortable goal, I know that's my true north that I'm driving towards. And now I track it daily, and it keeps you consistent in your daily actions and your intention. And it's so very powerful.
Yeah. I have to ask about that uncomfortable goal.
I am going skydiving this year, and it terrifies me to jump out of an airplane, but that's an uncomfortable goal that I'm going to accomplish. And I've got a couple other, my brother's going to join me, and a couple other guys that I have in a mastermind that are going to join me as well. So,
I love that. And I want to hear about it. I'm one of those people that I'll say, sure, I'll do something. I'm not there yet on skydiving, but I found myself one time in this rope course where they had, Chicken Little, you didn't leave the ground. They had middle of the road, and then they had the insanity group. And I'm over here in the insanity group. And I shouldn't have been in the insanity group, because we were about 70 feet, above ground, harness, walking these little tight ropes and everything. And I remember sending a picture to my boys beforehand, and they were like, what are you doing? You can't do this. I'm like, but I had to prove that I could do it. And at one point, on the high wire, I had lost my train of thought. And it was just that second where the knees start wobbling. And I'm sitting on my bottom, 60, 70 feet above the ground. And I had the best guide who came out. And I firmly believe, if he didn't know how he was phrasing it, it's how he phrased it. Because he said, you have two options. We could rescue you, or you could pull yourself up. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not getting rescued. I'm going to do this. And I fought for it, and I uprighted myself, but I probably had bruise on my forearms for about 2 months, because when I made it to the platform, I was hugging that telephone pole with all my might.
And I love that, right? The two options. So many times it's either do or do not, right? There is no try, do or do not. And I love pushing that comfort limit, because there is no growth in that comfortable spot that the mind constantly craves and tries to drive us towards. And that's why I kind of went and said that. My wife said, you said you're going to do what? And I said, oh, newsflash, that's what I'm doing. But to your point, I was on a coaching call with a friend the other day, and he said, I'm going to try and do a half marathon. And I coached him on, hey, it's either do or do not. And then when we went through it, I said, you know what, I'll do it with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just agree to doing a half marathon? But it's all in good fun, and it's going to push me. It'll drive me. So that's just a great piece to growth, right? Is having those goals and becoming a person that will run a half marathon, who I never was before. And that's where the beauty lies. So Kimberly, where can people connect with you?
So www.Kimberly Hambrick Consulting. That's the name of my company. And I'm on LinkedIn as Kimberly Hambrick as well.
Awesome. Kimberly, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, it's wonderful. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. You now have the knowledge, but without action, knowledge is useless. Choose to act. Choose to step into your greatness and unlock that hero inside of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review so more entrepreneurs can hear this message. If you absolutely love this podcast, which I hope you do, then share it up with someone you know who might see benefit from it. Become that beacon of change, and together we can impact the world.